Welcome back, everyone. I wanted to kind of make an update video on this guitar. I made a video on it probably 5 or 6 years ago, and I didn't really have much information on it, but I now have a lot more info on this as I've taken it around. So from what I've been told, this is a 1951 Gibson LG1. There's a couple definitive things that I've been told on how you can tell. You know, the body, kind of the body shape, the bracing on the inside. You probably won't be able to see it. Well, maybe you can. It's got the ladder bracing in there. I believe that's what I was told. The distinction between like the LG1 and the LG2, or maybe I have that backwards. I think it's an LG1, but I'm finally going to take this in and get it repaired so it's playable. I wish I could play it for you now, but I can, and you know, you can see the bridge is lifting off there. Maybe you see it better over here. Yeah, you can see how the bridge is coming off. So it needs to be re-glued and fixed, and just for years I didn't know where to take it. I wasn't really trusting anyone. I'll tell the story of it later on in the video, so if you want to, I won't do it right now, of how I got this. It's a pretty interesting story, but I'm finally going to take this thing in and get it worked on, at least so it's playable again, because I really want to play it. It's been sitting in a case, and I just, I really want to play it. I mean, but it's got some issues, right? It is definitely not a collector's item by any means, or at least, if it is, it's not, it's well beyond player grade. I don't know if the video will capture it, but you can see a lot of the scuffs and stuff, here, right? Up at the top here, and then at the bottom. It's got a lot of mojo, if you want to call it that, right? And then, of course, at the headstock here, it's got like, I thought that was a crack. I mean, it is a little tiny one, but it doesn't go all the way through or anything. The tuners, I definitely believe these have been replaced before. They're pretty newer looking, very shiny. These are very white, and the nut too, I'm sure, has been replaced. You can see it's going to need some work. I think it's coming out, or the glue is off of it. These are the same strings that were on here when I got this guitar. I've essentially, I don't want to say I've never played it, because I mean, I played it when I got it, but again, that was 23 years ago. And then ever since then, it's kind of just been sitting around. It's also got this giant thing here, this giant issue. Looks like, I don't know, it's very odd. I don't know if somebody dropped it or what. I mean, it's definitely been repaired before. There's a big crack here. It's sealed now, but the back, is, again, there's just a lot of wear and tear on it. So I took it around finally to some luthiers, local luthiers here in my area, a couple music stores, and had them take a look at it. It's really got some nice checking on the back of the neck too. I don't know if that's going to come through. Yeah, you can kind of see it in the right light. Kind of cool. Again, it was a very cool piece. I've just never really played it or anything, but I really want to. And so I took it to a lot of luthiers, about 3 or 4 in my area, and asked some advice on, how much would it cost to fix this. Essentially, I mean, the cool thing is, from what I've been told, the guys looked at it and they said that the neck is good. I mean, there's really nothing wrong with the neck. It does have a tad of the, I guess, it's folding a little, excuse me, but other than that, once the bridge gets fixed, I mean, they said really to get it playable, all I really need to do is get this bridge glued back down, and it should be playable. But what they've advised me to do is put it in a case, and humidify it, because again, it's very dry. I've had it in a case for years. It did hang on my wall for about, I want to say, maybe a year. I had it hanging out, like displaying it, just because it was cool. But I decided, I wanted to just keep it put away in a case for now, and I was just watching a video, I think recently, where a guy was talking about old guitars and, how they deserve to be played and stuff. And so it made me think of this one. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I don't play much acoustic, but again, just to have this and to be able to play it. And again, it's not, some crazy collector's item where it's like a $20,000 guitar and I'm sitting there, strumming it and jacking it up more. I did have one. It's funny. One of the luthiers that I took it to offered to buy it from me. He was going to give me a few $1,000 for it. But again, it's just kind of sentimental to me. Nobody in my family or anything gave it to me, but it's just the story of how I got it, and I've had it this long, and it's been through a lot with me personally, even though I've never played it much. But it's just one of those things. So I will be taking this to. He said, the only thing I'm concerned with is that these two, and I watched a video on, I think it's the woodworking guy, the guitar luthier. I think his name is Woodford. Awesome guitar channel. That guy's a brilliant woodworker. Like I can't even sand drywall, and that guy's like doing crazy stuff with guitars. But he had a video with like a 1958 model of this. It was all one color. It wasn't like the Sunburst, but the thing that was concerning me was these dots, because when I took it to the shop, they said they probably wouldn't be able to preserve these dots because you have, this is held in by screws and glue. So the guy told me that they'll probably have to, take these off, obviously, to get to the screws, and they might not be able to preserve these. But I did see in his video that he went from underneath, unscrewed it, and then heated these things up and popped them off. So maybe I'll mention that to the guy on the video, or when I drop it off. But I really want to get this thing playable again, just to, it'd just be fun to just sit around and play. It's pretty small. It's definitely not the size of like a normal acoustic guitar that I'm used to. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to getting this playable after all these years. It'll be kind of cool. I told my dad about this too, since he was born in the 40s, and I'm like, man, you could have gotten this as a Christmas gift when you were like 7. He goes, yeah. He goes, I remember seeing a lot of these around when he was, growing up, when he was a kid. So right time period and everything. The story of how I got it, so I'll go into that now. So if you're not interested in that, you could probably, stop watching here. But the story of how I got it is in 2001, in the summer of 2001, I had joined the Army. And at that time, I was in my early 20s. I was like 22, I think. And, life just wasn't happening for me. I wanted to like be in bands and stuff, and it just wasn't happening. So I decided to join the military and get rid of all my gear. My plan was to sell everything I had, amps, guitars, everything, and just have like one nice acoustic to take with me wherever I moved to, just so I could at least have something to play. So I gathered up all my gear. I mean, I had probably at that time, I had like probably 6 guitars. I had one of those old school Digitech processors. I had a Marshall half stack. I had pedals. I had a ton of stuff. So I took it all down to Guitar Center, and I walk in there, and I told the guy what I wanted to do. So while he was, looking over everything, had his guy come in and look over everything, I was looking around. Well, I happened to notice this old guy. He was probably, in his, I want to say 70s, full gray hair. I mean, he was older. He was just kind of coming out of the lesson area. So, I just kind of noticed him. I said hi to him. He was carrying around this case. So then I got everything. They gave me the money. I traded it in for the acoustic, which happened to be an Ovation acoustic, brand new at the time. And, I think I actually also, they didn't want, I had a Fender Squier that they didn't want, because again, it was in the summertime, and they were getting a whole bunch of shipments of those for Christmas. I guess they'd started early, so they didn't want the Fender Squier that I had. It was just a little beat up Fender Squier. So I carry the acoustic and the electric out to the car, and that old guy I told you earlier, he was out in the parking lot. So he walks over to my car at the time as I'm loading, and he said, he says, "Excuse me, I noticed that you had a lot of gear that you brought in that you were selling." He goes, "I was wondering if you'd be interested in trading me that Squier," because I didn't have a case for it. He goes, "That Squier for this guitar." Now, this guitar was in a case, so I didn't know exactly what he had. So I'm like, "Oh, maybe, So I had a Mustang at the time with the hatchback. So I said, "Well, yeah, let me see what you got." So I opened my hatchback, I put the case down, I open it up, and inside I see this. And so I kind of look over at the guy and I go, and I wasn't a jerk or anything, like, "Oh yeah." I said, "Are you sure?" I said, "You know what this is, right?" And he said, "Yeah, I know it's a Gibson." He's like, "I know it's a really good guitar." He says, "But, he goes, this was my neighbor's guitar." Now, this is what he said. I've never been able to verify it again, of course. But he said, my neighbor, and he told me his name, but again, 23 years ago, I wish I could remember, but I can't. But he said, my neighbor was a famous flamenco guitarist. He died. He had no family, so he gave the guitar to me. Like in his will, he gave it to me. He said, I have no family either. At the time, like he said, he was like 70 something. He said, I don't have any family. I really wanted to learn how to play guitar. He goes, so I've been bringing this to Guitar Center to learn. He goes, but it's too hard for me. It hurts my fingers. I'm not enjoying playing it. And he goes, and I picked up one of those Squiers off the wall when we were in Guitar Center, and that seems much easier. It's electric. It's way easier for me to learn. He's like, so, and I don't want to buy one. He's like, I'd rather just trade you. You're a young guy. You have a lot of life left. You'll probably appreciate this guitar more. So essentially, he wanted to trade me at the time. Squier was probably like $70, worth 60 or $70 for this 1951 Gibson. And I said, I mean, I'll do it. I said, but I really didn't feel comfortable. Like I felt like I was ripping him off. But he understood exactly what he was doing. He knew it was a Gibson, and he said, I don't have any family. There's, I'm not going to play it. It's too hard. So I traded it. I said, yeah, okay. I brought it home, and then I basically left it at my parents' house while I was away at the military, and it's just kind of been bouncing around from, their house to my house until I just kind of got it about 10 years ago and just kept it, in my house, in bedrooms, and in the closets and stuff like that. So that, so basically I traded a Squier for a 1951 Gibson. So that's the story of how I got it. And again, it's just sentimental to me for that reason, because it happened to me at a time in my life that I'll never forget so this was in August of 2001. For those of you who are counting at home, a few weeks later, obviously the world and the US would never be the same. So this just kind of symbolizes what was going on in my life at that time. And I really don't want to get rid of it. I don't want to sell it. It's not worth enough for me right now, and that I don't need the money for anything. Like if the guy said, I'll give you, $100,000 for it, then maybe I would, consider that. But I've kept it all these years. The guy was going to give me like $3,000, $2,700 for it or something. So just not worth it to me. And again, I don't need the money. And this is just something I've carried with me for the last, 20 plus years. It does have a serial number. So for anybody who's an aficionado of these, maybe to verify. So the serial number, it's on the inside block right here. You won't be able to see it through here, but I'll read it. It's 7312, and then space, that's on the left, and then on the right, there's just the number 7. So I've tried many times to identify this, but there is a vintage guitar guy that I found here in Arizona that I never knew existed. So I called him up, I sent him pictures of it, and he called me back within 15 seconds and was like, yep, it's a 1951 Gibson LG1. That's who offered to buy it from me. But so that's it. So I'll definitely be looking forward to having this on the channel and playing it once I get it done. So if anybody has any other information on this guitar or anything, please let me know. Again, it's just a kind of a cool piece of history. It's probably one of these things I'll wind up giving to my son, once I leave this world. So thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a good day.